So I want to. So next is this one up. Okay, perfect. Okay, so very briefly, I usually do a keynote in the main room this year. I'll be doing a roundtable around Europe. But just to give you a very brief, I would say, feedback on who I am, I've been having several lives online, and I've been following every decade a new thing. I was a hacker in the 80s. It was the coolest thing to do with a computer, right? I was a journalist covering tech in Paris and San Francisco in the 90s. I've been doing several startups during the Web 2.0 era. And I've been advising as well the French government on a few things. And today yes. So that was back in the days of Web 2 with Flickr and all this guys. So that was the very cool time. It was a time we, unfortunately, do not live in anymore. So Jim Clark, who used to be the CEO of Silicon Graphics and Netscape, always said there's two ways to make money on the internet. You either bundle things or unbundle. So there's basically two models. You either do what we call an OTT, over the top, so you're building on top of something else, or you do everything yourself. So if you look at the model of AI right now, if you're a company like OpenAI, you basically do a very closed model. You use APIs. And literally every company 2 years ago claiming to do AI were basically doing something on top. And then this Chinese company has been on the radar for some time, but also Meta, that's an interesting thing, Facebook, and decided that, oh, let's give everyone access to the technology. The thing about DeepSeek is basically, let me go back first. The thing about DeepSeek, it's literally entirely open. You can do whatever you want. Apparently today, OpenAI just announced they're going to release a fully open model. I don't know what it is, but don't forget, OpenAI is raising $40 billion right now, a $300 billion valuation, unheard of for a non-listed company, and they probably claim whatever they want. So this has been the main problem for technical entrepreneurs. So I'm going to talk to you with the background of an entrepreneur and how I'm trying to build. I've been pushing really hard for tech sovereignty. I've been pushing really hard for openness. But the reality is the web, that is, by the way, a European invented technology, was totally open. And the mobile, in fact, was completely closed because the moment you build on someone else's platform, they decide whatever you want to do with this platform. So today in the AI world, we are getting to a similar tension. Are we going to have closed box, meaning you have no idea how it works? I mean, literally no idea. Or are we going to be in an open possibilities where if you build product, you not only have access to the technology, but you can actually shape the technology to go toward your needs. So in a way, DeepSeek is an interesting thing. It's a Chinese company basically reopened the AI space. And it actually gave us a lot of interesting opportunities. So the scene right now is all about building stuff, but I'd like to go back to one thing, but it's very important, and it's actually the current conversation I'd like to have with you. You cannot understand technology if you don't understand geopolitics. It's been true for 40 years. Back in the 80s, there was the Soviet Union vs. the hackers in America and vice versa. It's still the same thing today. Players have changed. Countries have changed. There's a new country that came online in 1994 called China, et cetera, et cetera. Both are affected. And it is not just technology has changed geopolitics. Of course it did. But geopolitics has also changed how tech operate. So I'm going to go very briefly. The internet has been 35 years of fun. It's three stages. The first one is the expansion. Basically, the idea was that the moment the internet went beyond the NSF-net, that was the US education system, to become a commercially available platform to anyone, we expanded. And I'd just like to go back with, let me see if I have a slide. No, I'll go back here. We expanded with one thing. It's suddenly every law, FISA, Cloud was not there yet. All the laws and the infrastructure of law within this was exported as well. So it's not only exporting a technology, it was exporting a vision and exporting a legal framework of operation. The whole thing went crazy. I would have loved to put the slide in, but it goes so up and crash. This was WorldCom. And then everybody believed the dot-com was the crash of the startups. No, it was the crash of the telecom. They were like, let's invest. If you see a parallel with AI, debatable. And basically, when it crashed, we understood finally that the value was not in the network, it was in software. There was this small company, Google, who IPO'd 2004, and everybody look at the S1, document you publish when you go public, and literally everybody said, oh, damn, it's a cash machine. It was more than a cash machine, it was an entire economy. They had hired an economist called Alvarian just to discuss about how we can create world-building economies. And because of that, we entered a second act, that is the consolidation fact. Sorry, I'm going a bit too fast. And two things, 2007, two important things happened, the cloud and mobile. Suddenly, you can build a software for millions of people, and you can scale it to billions of people. And there's a reason why a lot of these companies, what usually we call the, I don't know if it's changed names, the GAFAM, the Seven Magnificent, the Batman, if you introduce Broadcom, etc., are so big. Suddenly, there was a recipe. But there's also another thing important. There was a business model, the cloud capital. Basically, if you want to know what cloud capital is, easy. Whatever on a data center, you run software. You sometimes buy the GPUs, especially now, and you just rent your software. That's the basic thing of the hyperscaler, every service we use. So you either pay the rent or collect the rent. And this has changed the geopolitics of the world, because suddenly you have, what I believe Europe has not understood is that the internet revolution was an industrial revolution. It was a new race of growth. And in '93, when Al Gore said, let's do the information highway, by the way, he did that because he sent an American student in France to study the military system back in the days. The main, I would say the main thing of the EU was clean diesel. So we had our priorities. So we live in a world where everyone else is a renter. I'm going to go very quickly. So how does AI affect this? When I say it's $1 trillion question, this is the amount of money that has been spent already in AI. It's unheard of. It's crazy because nobody knows how to make money. Before, we would put billions to figure out how to make money in the SaaS business, in the AI space. We're putting trillions, and we have no idea. Well, there's an idea that eventually cognitive capital, the amplification of knowledge, is going to be the model. You know, if you have access to superintelligence, potentially you can do more, charge more. So it means that whatever hard problem you have, you just throw the GPUs and it's going to be solved. Look at what Google is doing right now. You know that they just spin off as well. DeepMind just spin off a company just to focus on pharmaceuticals. And literally everyone in the space that is non-tech space is looking at how AI is going to bring me more PhD level people to my organization. There's the myth of the $1 trillion entrepreneur, the idea that one day one guy just with his agent somewhere can generate $1 trillion valuation. That's the big thing of Silicon Valley, I'm not so sure. But the reality is today we have a synthetic workforce. It's already existing everywhere, in support, in the army. If you think about the new wars, you don't send GIs, you just send a swarm of drones. So we are working in a very new approach. Of course, there's this thing that they call the low scale. Basically, if you ask anyone why is ChatGPT working so well, the correct answer is we don't really know. But the more compute, the more data, the more anything we do is going to make this thing better. Next thing is, after basically taking away so much of the data of the web, not all of it being legal, of course, they're going to go after the private data. If you look at what Elon Musk just announced when he's merging X.AI with X.com, sorry, it's very hard to follow. The idea is to say, I have now access to untampered access to all the data people are doing in real time. So now maybe Meta is going to do the same thing with WhatsApp, and maybe Google is going to do the same thing with all our documentation. That's the thing that we're looking at the moment. So it's a war, so it means you want all the talent in the world, you want to take all the data. Technically, data is going to be hard to get around 2030. All the compute and all the energy. The energy, the grid in America is so old. You know, they say it's a 21st century industry with a 19th century infrastructure. And the grid is gone after 2027. That's why they're looking at Europe. That's why they're looking at so many different things. It's a massive, massive amount. And obviously, to do AI, you need cooperation. You need commerce, you need regulation, security standard, copyright, trust and safety, chipset manufacturing. But in reality, it's not as easy now because we have a geopolitical instability. And if you think about it, we're now entering the third phase. I mean, we've been entering this phase for quite some time now, but the breakup phase. That it means that we live in a world of deglobalization. Wanted deglobalization or not? Well, I don't know, just switch on the news and try to figure out what's going on. The splinternet, the idea the internet is fragmented, and innovation divergence. And I will come to this because this is something extremely important. This is the journey of a chip. Actually started in the UK most of the time, at ARM and ASML. So whenever you see people talking about how chips should be done locally, it is by design a local journey. The splinternet is a reality. We now have not only, sorry, I'm gonna just do this. Not only we have issues with cables. I don't know if I brought one of them. Yeah, no. Not only we have now fiber optic cables that are being tampered, but now some people are playing with electric grid under sea. And this one is a tough one because it costs a fortune to rebuild. If you think about it, the internet was designed as a cooperation network. I generate a packet of data, I transmit it to the next guy, believing that the next guy is going to transmit it to the next guy and the next guy. So everything is supposed to be done in cohesion and in benevolent structure. What happens if the guy who you send the packet decides to destroy them, a black hole, or tamper them, etc.? So the internet was designed for geopolitical stability, and it's not anymore. The question of innovation divergence is fascinating. It means that we used to have a world where some people build models. Usually we say other people copy. It's a bit different. I think it's more that when you find a model that works really, really, really well, then everyone wants to adopt the same. You cannot do Uber without real-time data and a certain thing. So it took them 10 years to figure out how to make it really well. Same thing with Google. And when it does, people want to copy the concept, but also the model, because anything on the internet works because you actually test it and you improve it over time. And what's interesting in China at the moment is that for the first time, they're going in a different direction. The products are good, sometimes better. And they're looking into something extremely interesting in China. To understand what's going on is there's different regions, and they all compete against each other. And that's why you have Alibaba and Quen and DeepSeek, and they all try to go. They're not competing against the US anymore. They're competing within themselves. And that means that suddenly you see people in Europe say, oh, I'm going to look at what they do, and I'm going to try to copy what they do. So suddenly, the idea that product is actually mastered in one region is over. And that's actually a fascinating thing. It means that Europe could come with privacy first, with different approach. Let me see. So the big question in terms of geopolitical AI is you have two main players, and everyone is an AI swing state. It works exactly like the US election. Some people say, I'll go with China, and others say, you have to go with the US. The question is, it was kind of clear the previous administration where things would go. Now, a lot of people are wondering, especially Europe, is like, do we have to go in the AI models of the US? Can we figure out a way? Because people are looking at how to take DeepSeek and remove all the censorship with open source things. It's kind of hard, but it's doable. Or maybe other models will come. But the fact is right now, the model that exists is going to be, you have fundamental bricks and from two countries, and other people try to make a living out of this. There's a lot of opportunities because it actually means that for the first time, if you have access to open source technology and you have a sovereign cloud, and you can work on the post-training. The post-training is very important. It's like the education of the thing, the way it behaves. The pre-training is like you go at school and you learn, you open the books. The post-training is how you behave. Your parents teach you how to do things. And if you can combine all of that, you basically have the basic of a sovereign AI. I'm going to say there. But one of the things is the paradox of these days is the world is more complex, but in the meantime, intelligence is more affordable and everywhere. Thank you.